Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Love to see you all back again for another one. So guys, this video is going to be a little interesting. One of the folks in my tribe were recently asking me a question about, do I recommend them going over to Norton or do I recommend them going over to Spectrum Security Suite? Now, for those who don't know, Spectrum Security Suite is nothing but a rebranded F-Secure antivirus software. And it's really cool because Spectrum actually gives it to you at no additional cost. All you have to do is be a subscriber. And I made a video on that a while back. In fact, actually, that was like one of my first videos that I ever created on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description if you're interested in watching and learning a little bit more about that. But in this video, we're going to tackle one of the concerns that I received in the comment. So let's take a look at what that comment was. So Revelations 18-4 says, I have Norton Security Deluxe and just became a Spectrum customer. Is the Spectrum Security Suite better than Norton Security Deluxe? Well, that's a very loaded question. Is Spectrum's Security Suite better than Norton's Security Suite? I'm going to walk you guys through the process of how I go about evaluating software and what makes sense for my particular case. The interesting thing is you learn from this process and utilize it in your particular case to see if it makes sense for you. Now, one of the things that I recommend to everybody, and especially I had to learn this lesson the hard way, don't be biased towards certain things. Always look at the data, and the data will tell you what makes sense or not. I remember I used to get into heated debates about whether Apple or Android was better. And I didn't realize at the time that I was just losing friends and just making enemies. Not a good way to go ahead and evaluate tech. So again, in this video, we're just gonna be as unbiased as possible, look at the data, present the data, and then go ahead and make a decision as to which is better, either Norton Internet Security Suite or Spectrum's Internet Security Suite. So as always, guys, make sure you go ahead and give me a like for the video as it helps the channel grow. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel while hitting that notification bell. That way you're updated whenever we upload new videos to the channel. And lastly, share this video with a family member or friend. That way you can help them understand how we go about evaluating different pieces of software, and they can use this process in the future as well. So with all the housekeeping out of the way, let's jump into it. When it comes to evaluating security software, there's a couple of things that I look at in order to make a decision. And here's a list of some of the things that we're going to talk about in order to help you understand how we evaluate software and pick the right one. So first, we're going to look at the features between Norton and Spectrum Security Suite. Next, we're going to jump into the effectiveness of the software, meaning how well does it do in removing the actual malware. Next item on the list is we're going to take a look at the performance impact. And keep in mind that effectiveness and also as well the performance impact really work together hand in hand, because while it's doing its job, you want to keep track of what is the performance hit on your machine. Because remember, the more resources that a software uses in order to do its job takes away from the resources for you to go do your job, right? You can't launch other pieces of software. You can't do other things because it's being eaten up by this particular software. So performance impact is going to be especially important. And we're going to talk about a couple of different things in that area. So make sure you pay close attention to that one. Next up on the list is going over the user interface. And we'll take a look at the user interface for both of them and see which one looks best. Next up on the list, and this is also a big one as well, is pricing. You want to make sure that either option works with your budget. Next up on the list is going to be updates and maintenance. Lastly, we'll wrap up with platform compatibility. So let's head over to the desktop so that way we can tackle all these items and see who the winner is. Hey guys, welcome to the desktop, and let's jump into our first option, which is taking a look at the features. And we'll first start off with Spectrum's Security Suite. So Spectrum Security Suite is designed in order to protect you against virus and threats, and of course you have some security browsing features within the software. So jumping into what some of those features are, under virus and threats, you have Security Cloud, Deep Guard, Virus Protection, Ransomware Protection, Tamper Protection, and Gaming Mode. Now looking over at secure browsing, secure browsing of course protects you against malicious website and blocks unwanted ads. So you'll have things such as browsing protection, banking protection, and ad blocker. If you're interested in knowing in detail what any of these items are, you can click on the hamburger menu and then head over to settings. And once the settings come up in virus and threats or in secure browsing, you can go ahead and read what some of these things are. As an example, I just talked about Deep Guard. Deep Guard makes sure that you use only safe applications. The safety of an application is verified through trusted cloud service. Virus protection, of course, this comes very easy. Automatic scanning detects harmful files and prevents threats on your computer. Now let's take a look at secure browsing. What is secure browsing? Browsing protection blocks harmful websites to ensure the safety of your computer and personal data. Banking protection, this one's pretty interesting. keeping your transactions safe. Banking protection activates when you access a bank's website or make online payments. So now that we briefly take a look at the features with the Spectrum Security Suite, let's go ahead and take a look at all the features with Norton's offerings and see how it compares. Now guys, as you can see here, my subscription has expired with Norton, but if you have a valid subscription with Norton, as you can see, they have tons of features in their software that is not just device security like you saw with Spectrum Security Suite. So just running through the list here, you have software updater, we had that in Spectrum's. You have a private browser, helps block ads and trackers for free. Dark web monitoring, you have a secure VPN, you have privacy monitoring, you have cloud backup, you have a password manager, and then you have parental controls. In this section, when we look at the features between Norton and Spectrum Internet Security, Norton here comes out ahead with all the features that it packs into its software between password manager, cloud backup, VPN. There's a lot more features that are packed into this software than just an internet security piece of software. So the check mark goes to Norton in this case. Moving into the section now where we're going to take a look at the effectiveness between Norton and Spectrum, let's take a look at some of the numbers here. So in order to run this test, I ended up going and downloading a torrent full of viruses, and we're going to extract that torrent and put them on each virtual machine that we used in order to test. And as you can see, we used a total of 65,536 total files that were harmful in some shape or form. Now, when we take a look at Spectrum's Internet Security, Spectrum Internet Security left 4,607 infected files or malicious files after it was done doing its scan and cleanup. So if we do a little bit of math here, we realize that Spectrum has an effectiveness rate of 92%. And of course, if you have 65,536 and you only have 4,607, 92% of those malicious files were eradicated. Now conversely, let's take a look at Norton. Norton, on the other hand, left 9,925 files remaining. And if we do a little bit of math here, we realize that Norton's effectiveness rate comes down to 84%. So out of the two, which one does a better job in cleaning up those malicious files? Well, the math doesn't lie. Spectrum beats Norton by a couple percentage points. And the winner here between Norton and Spectrum Internet Security is, of course, Spectrum. And we just talked a little bit about the numbers as to why Spectrum gets the check mark here, but we can clearly see that it does a better job of being more effective at eradicating malicious pieces of software. Based on the numbers, we can see here that Spectrum Internet Security is more effective at removing malicious files on the computer than Norton was in our testing. Now let's jump into performance impact between the two different softwares. Now, in order to see the performance impact between the two different softwares, this is where a technology like virtualization can help us. Now, if you guys are interested in learning about virtualization, leave me a comment in the comment section below, and we can make a video specifically on virtualization. Also, don't forget to check out some of my other videos where I'm already using virtualization in order to virtualize other operating systems, specifically RHEL. So go check that out as well. So in order to make sure that this test is even across the board, we utilize VirtualBox in order to virtualize Windows 11. And both virtual machines had 4 vCPUs. They both had 8 gigs of RAM, and they both had 120 gigs for hard drive space. And of course, one virtual machine was going to have Norton on it, and the other virtual machine was going to have Spectrum Internet Security on it. So after downloading and extracting a torrent full of malicious files, and that file had over 65,000 files that were malicious in some shape or form, we utilized each software in order to see the performance impact on that virtual machine. Now keep in mind, when we were gathering the performance impact, we were specifically interested in seeing what the performance impact was when we were actually running the scans. You can do other scans to see how the software does in a steady state environment, meaning it's just installed. You want to see what performance impact it has on the machine. There's multiple stages in which you can do it, but the one that we were interested in was when it was actually performing the scan and cleaning up those malicious files. So let's take a look at some of those performance impact. First item on the list is processor time. And I'll go ahead and I'll put on the screen a nice little chart with all the little data points that shows you the processor time between the virtual machine or VM that was running Norton. And then you'll also see the other VM that has Spectrum Internet Security running on it. Now, for those who can't see it because maybe the legend is a little bit small, the blue is Norton and the orange is Spectrum. Now, if we take a look at the processor time on there, it looks like Spectrum is pretty much at a steady state, and it looks like it's being utilized pretty much consistently across the board, where Norton has quite a bit of fluctuation there. But because I have all the data points, I'm actually going to give you the average processor time for each of them, and let's take a look at those numbers. So when we take a look at processor time, Norton had 56% on average processor time usage, whereas Spectrum has 60% processor time usage. So in a nutshell, Spectrum has a higher performance impact on your machine than does Norton. So now let's take a look at memory. Now I'll go ahead and I'll put that chart up on the screen, and this particular chart is committed bytes in use. So how much memory is our virtual machines using? And again, blue is Norton, orange is Spectrum. And the interesting thing with Spectrum, you just see a massive spike up. And once you see that spike, it kind of stays steady throughout the whole entire time as it's doing its job. Now, Norton, on the other hand, it looks like it steadily increases over time, and it sort of stays hovering around consistently for quite a bit. And then towards the end, you see that little drop off there. I guess it was done doing its work and decided to release the memory. So pictures are great, but let's give you some mathematical numbers in order to see who uses the most amount of memory on average. On average, Norton had 80% of committed bytes in use, whereas Spectrum has 87 bytes committed in use. So Spectrum had 7% more than Norton did in this particular test. So that translates into Spectrum utilizes more memory in order to get its job done during this time than Norton did. So that means less memory for you to do your work. Now let's go ahead and take a look at this time. Now what I'll do is I'll put Spectrum and also Norton on the screen, and I'll also label them because these charts were a little bit more tricky to come up with than some of the other ones. So I want to make sure that you'll see both and know which one is which. Now let's take a look at the average numbers for disk time use, because the charts are great, but it's also good to see some numbers. So if we take a look at Norton, Norton had an 18% disk time, whereas Spectrum had a 4% disk time. Quite interesting in the disparity. Now you know that Norton is a little bit more taxing on your hard drive than Spectrum is. Now let's take a look at the final performance metric, and that's going to be networking. Now on the networking side, this test takes a look at packets coming in and packets going out, and it's measured in total bytes per second. So I'll go ahead and put the chart up on the screen here, and again, blue is Norton, orange is going to be Spectrum. Now the chart is very informative. It looks like Spectrum has a lot of activity on the front end and sort of, quiets down towards the end as far as sending and receiving packets. Whereas Norton, on the other hand, it looks like it's drowned out in this particular chart with all the activities in the beginning with Spectrum. But you do see a lot of activity towards the end with Norton. But I think that communicating the numbers will probably be a little bit more useful than seeing this particular chart. So let's jump into some of the numbers for total bytes per second. So on the Norton side, on average, you have 2,286 bytes per second. On the Spectrum side, you have 7,362 total bytes per second. So this translates into Spectrum utilizes your network interface card a lot more than you see on the Norton side. Now jumping into performance impact here, Norton is the one who comes out ahead. And we looked at this in many different views between looking at processor time, memory, network, storage, all these different avenues. We collected the data and we saw that Norton has less performance impact over Spectrum. Now in our testing for this particular segment, we're going to give the check mark over to Norton. Now interestingly enough, even though we gave the check mark over to Norton, Norton wasn't as effective as finding malicious files on the computer and removing them as Spectrum. So it makes sense why Spectrum was using more resources than Norton was. But if we were just going to purely look at the data of who is utilizing more resources, and that means less resources for you to use, Norton comes out ahead in this particular case. Now jumping into the user interface. So let's jump into the user interface. And again, guys, the user interface in this is very, very easy for Spectrum Security Suite. I mean, there's not much to do in order to get around and do what you're doing. So as an example, the hamburger menu is over here. If you want to go under virus and threats and see what's there, you can check for updates. You can do a quick scan. You can do a full computer scan. You can go into your settings, browse the settings, and take a look at items that you can turn on and off, view blocked applications, view quarantine items. I mean, this is very, very simple interface. It's not too hard to understand. And if we go back and take a look at the secure browsing, same thing. You can go ahead and take a look at website exceptions. You can submit a sample of a website that you think has been falsely classified. You can install a browser protection while you're browsing the web. So again, they have that for Chrome. They have it for Firefox. You can go ahead and check that out. Now on the right hand side, if you want to go into the question marks, you have your help, support, and a little bit about the software. Very, very easy to navigate this particular software. Let's go ahead and check out Norton's offering and see what their interface looks like. Now over on Norton's side, this is also easy as well, depending on what you're looking for. They have this main landing page here where you can go and access every single thing that you're subscribed to. So in this case, if you're interested in device security, you can go ahead and open that. If you're interested in checking out a password manager, you can set that up, of course. If you want to turn on your VPN, the turn on button is right here. So it's very easy to really navigate this. So let's take a look at the device security. So if we go ahead and click open, you can see here that the device security opens up. And again, also very easy to navigate. If I go ahead and click the security option here, you can see that you can go ahead and do scans. You can update. If you want to go a little bit more advanced, you can take a look at the advanced options that are in there and you can toggle things on and off. You can go to the internet security side. Under internet security, you have password manager, generator, browser extensions. You can take a look at the performance of your machine, backing up your machine as well. You can do that. Again, a lot of these features that are built into this landing page are also built into here, so you can kind of access them in two ways, which is pretty interesting. In my opinion, this user interface is not hard to navigate at all. Both of these softwares were easy to navigate, and as you can clearly see, I was able to find what I was looking for very, very quickly, and it was no trouble at all. So in this particular category, I'm going to give a check mark to both Norton and Spectrum, as it was a tie for me. Now let's talk about pricing. The clear winner here is Spectrum. Now, as stated before, Spectrum is no additional cost as of the recording of this video. Spectrum automatically includes this internet security software with your subscription. On the other hand, Norton, you have to pay for the subscription. And when we are looking at, do you want to pay extra or do you want to have something included? Well, you really can't beat that. So in this particular case, Spectrum gets that check mark. Now looking at updating and maintainability, this one is going to be a tie between both Spectrum and Norton. Both of them allow you to update the software very easily. You can do it by setting up automatic updates, or you can manually kick off an update to update your software and the databases for those software. So really, in this particular case, both of them are intuitive, both of them are easy, and both companies regularly update their software. So in this particular case, both of them get a check mark. Platform compatibility. Now, when we look at platform compatibility, Norton comes out ahead as Spectrum is only compatible with Windows and Mac. Norton gives you the ability to protect other devices that are not just only Windows and Mac. So this extra flexibility lands Norton a check mark. Now, if you're following the score here, you can clearly see that Norton has 5 check marks and Spectrum only has 4 check marks. So one would think that Norton clearly comes out ahead as the winner. Now, even though Norton has more check marks and it looks like it's the clear winner on paper, I want to share with you my thoughts on who the winner is. All right, folks, so you've seen a lot of the information as far as effectiveness, performance impact on the machine, GUIs. I mean, I can go on and on and on about evaluating, 2 different pieces of software, but at some point you do have to make a decision, and I'll tell you what my decision is. And by the way, if you happen to disagree with my decision, go ahead and leave me a comment in the comment section below, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So lots of folks have asked me which one should they choose. And in my particular case, if I was evaluating the software and I had to choose, I am going to go ahead and choose Spectrum Internet Security. Now you may be asking, Well, why are you going to choose Spectrum Internet Security if you get more features with Norton? You get less of a performance impact, meaning more resources for your computer to do more work. It just doesn't make sense, right? And I think this is one of the really cool things about understanding that we all have different goals and different things that we are trying to accomplish, and we all have different places in which we start from. And in my particular case, price was a big thing for me, in the sense that I don't have to pay additionals for a piece of software. Not because I don't want to spend the extra money, it's just more of I'm already paying for a service that includes it, so why am I going to double up in the sense of, okay, I get it included through my internet provider, why am I just going to go buy another internet security software? The second piece of the puzzle for me, which was also very important, was the effectiveness. To me, it's very important that if my machine gets infected, I eradicate whatever is on that machine, because my data is worth more to me, right? My whole life is digitized, and it's crucial to make sure that my computer is clean and running at all times. I am willing to sacrifice performance impact in order to get to that point. Now, of course, right, we stress tested it in this particular case. Not a lot of people are going to have over 65,000 malicious files on their computers. But the point is to show you how effective these pieces of software is. And this actually makes sense. Spectrum Internet Security, its sole job is to be a piece of software that protects your computer and removes malicious files. It is one thing and one thing only. Whereas if you look at Norton, Norton has not only the side of the software that protects your computer and also cleans things, but it also has a VPN, it has a password manager, it has cloud backup integrated right into the software. I mean, it tries to do a lot of things. And when you try to do a lot of things, you're not that great at that one thing. Sort of like Walmart. Walmart has a lot of things packed into their stores between groceries and all this other stuff. But then I look at their department when it comes to vehicles, and you can get an oil change at Walmart. Good luck getting your car back in one piece. Now, for those who disagree with me and say, well, it takes a big performance impact on your machine, hardware has gotten cheap over the years, and it's been more and more easier for everyday folks to get their hands on high performance hardware where that wasn't a thing in the past. So I think that we can sacrifice a little bit of hardware performance, right, in order to get the job done correctly. All right, guys, so this test and this video was a lot of fun to make. It did take a lot of work to put it together, so hopefully it has helped you out a lot. And if it did, go ahead and give me a like for the video, as it helps the channel grow. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so that way you're notified whenever we upload to the channel. And go ahead and share the video with a family member or friend, because I guarantee you that a lot of people who have Spectrum as an example for an ISP, they don't even know that you can get an antivirus or an internet security suite, should I say, for free. And they don't even know that it's powerful than most of the softwares that they'll find in the shelves at the store. So why pay for something extra when you don't have to? So go ahead and share the video so that way they can see this. And if you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave me in a comment in the comment section below, and I'd be more than happy to answer those questions. Or if you disagree with me and you think that my logic isn't great, I'd love to hear from you as well. So that'll do it for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see everybody in the next one.